Became moderator. There were, got it. Thank you. Got it. I still have a chance to leave the meeting if I want. In case I chicken out. I almost hit that button. We had a lot going on. We were coming out of a pandemic, actually still kind of in the middle of a pandemic, but we were going through a senior minister transition with Mark leaving and for new career aspirations. But what I think I learned as I stepped in as moderator is that we were a church in transition, not a church in crisis. And this is a theme that I think resonated and I think is important to consider. And for a couple reasons, even though we were coming out of a pandemic, we were in good financial health as a church. We were the beneficiaries of the PPP loan, which is something that enabled us to keep our staff intact. It actually enhanced our financial position and is something that bolstered our balance sheet as a church. We also still had strong donor support, thanks to you guys. Even though we weren't here at MBCC on campus, we were still contributing. People still felt connected to this church. We had some phenomenal online services. So we had a lot of great support and continued stewardship, and people that continued to kind of see beyond what we were all kind of going through. And then Montessori, they closed at one point last year, as you all remember, and that was kind of a scary time for us. And but they have stabilized on multiple levels. Number one, they were able to reopen their campus. We graciously let them use two of the classrooms that we have here in this building, and that helped them to open up schools for the K through 5 as opposed to just preschool, and or I guess 1st through 5. They go through K as it is, and that's something that helped them out. The other thing that happened is they closed their Bell campus. They had 2 campuses here in Manhattan Beach, one here and one kind of over by Grandview in Manhattan Beach, and they closed that school. So obviously their demand here at our Peck campus is far greater. And then we also, coming into this year, we have, aside from Mark Pettis, we have had a lot of stability in both our ministerial and our staff positions with Sylvia, with Matthew, with John Fitzgerald, and we've really had a great team. Nancy Cross, that has kind of been there with us throughout. Jacob is somebody who's still with us, and we're very grateful to have him. So I want to give a special thank. I'm going to be thanking a lot of people, but I want to give special thanks to Nancy Hesterberg, our former moderator, George Condi, our former ops board chair, for kind of steering us through those white knuckle times, I guess. That said, it was definitely a time of transition. And I think that transition started before I officially became moderator. I was associate moderator and working with Mary and Nancy. And on January 1st, we hit an all-time high for new COVID cases, almost 20,000 new COVID cases here in LA County. There's a graph that kind of shows the spike that occurred. It actually was much worse in the winter than when the pandemic initially was declared last spring. And on January 17th, Reverend Mark Pettis had his farewell service. So he was on his way. I need to remind you that it was an online drive-through farewell service. So clearly a sign of the times. On January 21st, Dale and Bruce and a few others took a walk through the manse and informed us on the ops board and a few others that the manse was falling apart after decades of wear and tear. And we'll get into that in a little bit more, but we were informed that with all the work that we wanted to do, that it would cost about $325,000. That was the initial estimate, and that would later swell to $450,000. So that was obviously something that we weren't prepared for. That kind of caught us by surprise, but something that was going to be dealt with this year. And then March 9th, fast forward, it was a year since the World Health Organization declared COVID a pandemic. But the silver lining, the optimism, was that we had vaccines, and they were getting produced much more rapidly. And President Joe Biden made a vow to have 100 million vaccinations in his first 100 days of office. And what a difference that has made for all of us. So some of the goals that we put together kind of revolve around a theme, and that is working together, teamwork, growing stronger together. As a moderator who is following in Nancy's footsteps, who you set a pretty high bar, I gotta say. You were on top of just about everything, and I was kind of scratching my head, thinking, I can't try to be Nancy. I'm not Nancy. I don't have her focus, her energy, her time, and I need to do it differently. And that was really where the team concept came together. We have a lot of great people here at MBCC. We have a lot of great resources, and that's something that I really was determined to call upon and to try to bring out the best in and lean on. And so one of the goals was to stabilize our church during this transition process. Anytime you're going through a major transition, an 8-year senior minister change, that brings a lot of issues, a lot of things that people need to be comforted, reassured. We need to keep people together. It's not the time to start making radical changes. So we had to hire an interim. We made a decision in the fall, the moderator team primarily, along with some insight from some of our conference ministers, that it would be in the best interest of MBCC if we did fill that spot with an interim position, so that we had that stability. And the other goal, obviously, is to hire a full-term called minister. That's obviously a position that's going to be a key leadership position for MBCC and for all of us, both organizationally and spiritually. We had to renovate the manse, so that was we had to get the scope, bid, award, contract, fund, project management, all of those things. We were planning on revisioning. Anytime you go through a transition, we hadn't envisioned in about 10, 12 years. It's always a good time to kind of relook at, what's our purpose? Where are we going? What's our mission as a church? And then obviously maintain the financial and operational health of the church to reopen, to basically get back here. We weren't here, 7, 8 months ago. Live Sunday worship, reconnecting with each other in person, and doing ministry work together. So some of the things that I'm going to cover today and talk about include all of the items on this list. The manse, the senior minister, the interim minister, visioning, senior minister search, reopening our campus, boards and committees, some of the great work that our committees and groups are doing. Talk about signage, paint, and facilities, and everything, all the work that's been happening while we were off campus, and now that we're back on campus and continues to happen. We have a new website that we're going to be rolling out. I think the weekend of maybe the 3rd, I think October 3rd. So it's a couple of weeks away, maybe 1-2 weeks away. So we're getting close. I think we're going to test it out next Sunday and then go live the following week. And then, the homecoming Sunday event that we had, which I think was a lot of fun for everybody. So let's talk about the man. So this property is in Liberty Village in Manhattan Beach. It's in East Manhattan Beach, over by the middle school, if you haven't been there. And, it's a house that I think was probably built in maybe the 30s. It was a kind of a beach cottage type property, about 2,000 square feet, 5 bedrooms, 3 baths. And these are some photos of the exterior and interior. And this is the property that Mark and his family were living in, and John Calhoun before. But as you can see, there is a lot of wear and tear on the property over the years. And so these are some of the photos that show kind of the state that the property had gotten to, and the work that needed to be done. And I think of all the photos, this one is probably the winner. What you have here is a floor to ceiling window outside the lavatory. Not exactly sure why. That's the neighbor's house right there. He could probably just peek his head right over the wall. This is, when I think one of my retirement projects is I'm hoping to produce a show called, What Were We Thinking? And I think this would probably be the first one. But anyways, good stuff. So, there's a project, a scope of work, and, a vision that's kind of starting to come together. And sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words. One of the concept ideas that came to us from our contractor, along with the project managers, Bruce and Rob, is the moving the front door, and putting in kind of a more dramatic entrance to the home. On the left is kind of how the home is currently set, and it kind of resembles more of a tract type home. So what's been decided from a design standpoint is to move that into a front entrance so that we can create a great room. Because what would happen is when you walk into Mark's house, it would be a room that was kind of cavey, low ceilings, kind of dark, not real bright, and then closed off from the kitchen and the dining room and that area. So basically what's going to happen is that's all going to be opened up. Those walls are being opened up. So you'll have a much better, more functional, more contemporary, entertaining type space. And I think it's going to really add a lot of value to the property. So the work is underway. The sandblasting on the exterior here, removal of the planters and trees that were in the front of the house, watering, irrigation. This is a shot of a temporary structure wall. I don't know exactly what the term is for that, Bruce. The shoring that is in place while we're waiting for our structural permit. We have 2 of our 3 permits. So we're getting close on this final permit, and then we can start construction. But as you can see, they've already put in some of the drywall on the ceiling. They've put in new light fixtures throughout, and this is going to kind of open up that space and make it a lot more bright and functional. So kind of overall, the progress that's been made, the project scope. So that kind of started out with Dale and Bruce. They did a lot of work. We got congregational approval at the annual meeting last year. And then we went on to contracting. There were 3 bids that came in. We selected one of those and got into contract negotiations. And so Bruce and Dale did a great job selecting the contractor that we're working with. We're very happy with them so far. We got into contract negotiation. Doug Greer helped us out with that. And And then, around that time, Rob Barber, who's one of our assistant moderators, who can't be with us today, but he is at a reunion with his pilot buddies that he flew with. But so he's been doing a lot of work on this project. So, my thanks to all those guys. They've really worked hard on this project. It's a lot of hours. It's a lot of commitment. And we're not paying them very well. So, so our thanks to that crew. But yeah, a lot of progress has been made, but it's been waiting for the big progress to happen. So, what you have is you've got the first phase of the project, the first couple of months where you get into demo and you're like, wow, things are happening fast. And then you start waiting because you're sending designs to the city, you're waiting for the design to get approval. And there's a lot of waiting that's happening. And we're kind of getting through that. We've got a roof, bathroom, and kitchen permits. We're waiting for our structural and all other aspects of the project to be permitted. Those are in corrections right now, and we expect to have those soon. Another big milestone was the cornerstone loan documents. So this is a big construction project, almost $500,000. And that's something that we're a church. So lenders are kind of funky when it comes to lending money to churches. Because they don't want to foreclose on a church because nobody wants to have to be the banker that foreclosed on the church, and so it's a little bit tricky, but we have a good financial team. So on our ops board, Jim Gosweiler, Sherry Brand, and they're working very closely with John Fitzgerald, and they pulled together the loan that was in line with all the terms that were approved by both the executive board and the operations board. And, we just authorized to have those loan docs signed. So we're just waiting to get those final docs from the bank. And we'll have our construction funding. We're going to do a refinancing. We'll have a line of credit. So our liquidity will stay just as strong, or if not stronger than it is currently. And in the event of a rainy day or something terrible happens, we're prepared, and this project won't affect that. And then we can refi for a better rate, lower interest rate, longer term loan there. Yeah, Jim.
So 6 months from now, when you turn over the reins to our next moderator,
Mary.
Some of these problems, some of these issues will have been solved somewhere.
Right.
What do you think? What do you think? What do you hope to be the status when you do the handover? What big problems could be left?
What big problems? I don't know. That's a question for our project manager, Bruce.
Well, good news is we're on budget. They have a schedule. So I think the biggest challenge is on the project. It shouldn't be require as much involvement from the
Yeah, that's the feeling that. Oh yeah. So the question was, when you're gone 6 months from now, and the new moderator steps in, what are some of the concerns and some of the problems that that could happen, and do we need to be concerned about? And I deferred that to Bruce Cook, our project manager, and who just shared that we are ahead of schedule, and we are on or under budget, and that most of the biggest challenges in the project have been tackled. Not to say that new ones couldn't come down, but the biggest problems, at least in terms of the moderator perspective, have been tackled. And I feel that way personally. I spent a lot of time on this project, probably the first couple of months, kind of working with Bruce and Dale. And then I think once we got that contract executed and things started to take shape, and we kind of got a couple invoices, I think the team started, working very smoothly together, and everybody, the trust levels increased. You know, it's a big project, so it takes time for kind of that to build that team element, and things are definitely going more smoothly. The other thing is that our assistant moderator, Rob, is one of the project managers that's working with Bruce on the project. So he's intimately involved with the issues and can help you out, Mary.
One more quick question.
Yes.
Has the city had a positive attitude, or have they been a stumbling block? Unreasonable stumbling block.
So has the city been an issue, and have they been a unreasonable stumbling block is the question.
No, well, we don't have the correction back yet, but we've had several conversations with code compliance, and building and safety inspectors. And we have good relationships with them. We don't expect them, a lot of these people I know from doing the church projects in the past. And that I don't see any real issues. The city, as far as plan check, is going through a process of changing back to getting things out. A lot of that is turned electronically, website. In the past, several months, the pandemic has slowed things up, but now it's starting to roll. Also, I might add, there's a lot of things going on right now, and I would encourage anybody who wants to go out to 2108 Manzanita and check it out. It's really a sight to behold. Even though we don't have final permits yet, Joe has at least 6 guys every day doing stuff. He's pushing it as far as he can to get as much as he can done, so when the permit comes, we can roll. And I think you'd be amazed to see the building in the condition it is now, and then look at it later in the tennis.
All right.
If we want to come by, is there a weekday typically?
Just tell the workers you're a member of the church, and they're all good guys.
Thank you.
All right. Do I need to repeat that for the online audience, or? Okay. All right. So interim senior minister, Reverend B.J. View. He was hired March 13th. He started April 1st. And I personally say that I'm very happy with the job that BJ is doing on multiple fronts. And it sounds like many of you are as well. Let's talk about Sunday worship. Sunday worship is a very exciting thing here at MVCC. We reopened, we got back on campus, and we started outdoors. We brought the risers for choir to sing outdoors. We've been getting some very inspirational worship services. BJ has been a great leader in terms of managing the staff, working with the ministerial staff and Matthew and Sylvia, working with our operational staff, John and Pat and Nancy, and we're not having a lot of problems coming to us. We're not having a lot of people coming to us with issues. So I think that's a very good thing. And before I came in here today, I reached out to a few of those just to see how things are going, and have been getting some good feedback. So that's outstanding. He's been helpful on our executive board and our operations board. I think people realize that he has a lot of experience, and so we lean on him when we're looking for ideas, when we're looking for solutions to problems and issues. And he's somebody that has a lot of wisdom and has a lot to offer, but he also is a really good listener. And we can work on the ultimate common goal. There's no ego that gets in the way of decision making. It feels like a collaborative process. And I think that's really a really good skill set. He's been doing house visits and serving congregants and, really, kind of making connections with people. And I think that's been really helpful in our transition. And then lastly, as we're visioning, as we're contemplating kind of where we're going as a church, some of the direction, he's kind of helping us in that transition and in preparation. So, I can definitely say that we're blessed to have BJ at our service. Special thanks to our interim search committee. This started last fall. As soon as we found out from Mark, we were hot on it, and Nancy appointed a search committee to start getting some resumes in place and meeting with our conference ministers. And so Deb Dupree, George Condi, and Mary Beal, our associate moderator, were a part of that search committee. And just want to thank them for all the hard work that they did. I remember at one point when we were reviewing those profiles and working on BJ's contract, and I had to talk you off the ledge. You're like, wow, this is really a lot of work. Mary, she has been retired for some time. She's a former school administrator. And so she has a great deal of management experience, but I think she had been away for a while and hadn't really been called to use those skills. But it's been good to watch that transition and see it all coming back. So thanks to all those folks. Next is the senior minister search. So we have the grade 8. The search committee is Craig Torrey, Jim Gosweiler, Pam Condi, Phil Ryan, Rita Wong, Anne Marie Saunders, Frank Hansel, Rachel Humphrey. I think 4 of you are here today. Raise your hands. And this group has been meeting almost every Thursday since I think maybe February. And not every Thursday, but many of those Thursdays, and did a lot of diligent work on putting our church profile together. That was completed in June. We started advertising that church profile. We've had, I think, a total of 16 applicants who have showed interest in this position. Initially, we had a rush, and we got 7 or 8, and then things were just quiet. And then we had another rush recently where we tweaked some things and started kind of having some people do some networking on our behalf because we have a great position. And I think what I've learned from this process, I've attended a lot of these meetings, is that MBCC is a wonderful opportunity for a minister here in the UCC. And we just need to find that right person. We need to trust the process. It's not going to happen overnight. And I think there's a reason for that. But we will call and we will find an exceptional minister. I have no question about that. So thank all those for all their hard work in that effort. And, I think that, we should be optimistic about this process. So next is visioning and reflection. So, anytime you go through a transition from one senior minister to another, it's kind of an opportunity to reflect. And so we've been kind of going through an informal process where, this transition where you don't have a permanent called senior minister, people, they think about the past, they think about the prior ministers. You hear them talking about that a great deal because it's that transitional time. And I think that's good. I think it's good for us to think about those things. I think it's good for us to talk about those things, to be present and honest about who we are as a church and where we are, and to contemplate and envision, our future and kind of where we're going, and what's the best version of our future. I talked about BJ. So the interim minister that person, part of their skill set that we seek in an interim minister is somebody who has a skill set to help in transition, to help us discern, who we are and where we're going and who is God calling us to be, to prepare us for our next senior minister. And then lastly, there's a formal process of visioning that we're just kind of in the starting phases of. We went out, got 3 bids, interviewed 3 highly qualified consulting firms that do visioning, one of whom we've worked with in the past, Leighton Ford Ministries, who did a lot of great things, helped us really get organized in a lot of important ways, and I think helped us function a lot better since John Calhoun was our senior minister. A lot of that change actually started to take place before Mark actually even came on. But then when Mark came on, he kind of continued that. But we decided not to go forward with that visioning process until we had our senior minister in place. It's kind of a chicken or the egg kind of a thing. It's like, do you do it before? What came first, right? The visioning or the minister? So it's like, if you do it before, then it kind of informs like who you need your senior minister to be, right? Who you're looking for, because you have a clear identity. On the other hand, if you do it before, then you bring in your senior minister and they're like, I didn't envision this stuff. This isn't my vision. I wasn't a part of this process. And then maybe they're not as committed, or maybe they accept parts of the mission, but not others because they weren't really involved. So ultimately, I think what it came down to was that we do have a fairly good idea of who we are. I mentioned that we're in transition, not crisis. So I think that we determined that it would be best to have our senior minister be a part of that visioning process so that they had buy-in. And that was really what it came down to. So any questions on that? So a couple of things that I've learned. Being moderator is a lot of work. And I said I was going to thank a lot of people, and because I've had a lot of help, and just so I don't forget, I want to thank my wife, because being the wife and a spouse of a moderator is hard work, because I'm busy. That means there's things overflowing, duties with the kids, errands, responsibilities. I'm in meetings, most Tuesdays, from 7 to 8, 9, depending on how long these meetings go. A lot of Thursday meetings with the search committee, Sundays and weekends, and then just, email and catching up and phone calls and lunches and all sorts of different things. So, I couldn't do it without you. So thank you. And I've learned that, church is life. Anybody watch that show, Ted Lasso, on Apple TV? We've got some Ted Lasso fans over here. So there's this character, Danny Rojas, and he has this quote. He says, football is life. And, it's very poignant. It sounds just very cliche, but it's very poignant because, my association is that church is life, is that, things that you find in life and other aspects of your life, you also find here at church. There's different personality types. You've got, heroes, martyrs, bullies, all sorts of different, and we're no different. But that our strengths, and we have strengths and weaknesses just like any other organization, but our strengths far outweigh our weaknesses. We have a lot of great things going for us. We have a congregation that is very active, very involved, cares deeply about this church. And so I think that we have a lot to draw on as we go forward. And I think that our future is something that we should embrace with great enthusiasm. We have some John Calhoun issues. We have some Mark Pettis issues, and we have some O&A issues. That's something that that I've learned as moderator.
Question.
Yeah,
Are the Pettis and Calhoun issues primarily financial?
no,
Oh,
no, they're emotional.
I'm sorry.
They're personal and emotional. Yeah,
As in, let's get another one of those.
that would be one example. I think there's lots of them. And you know, I think that, you know, John was great. I didn't really get to experience that because I've only been coming here. I came here at the end of his tenure, you know, so I didn't see the best and brightest of John Calhoun. I kind of saw the end of John Calhoun. And so some of the issues are that, you know, he was here for a really long time. He was like, kind of like, he was our friend. You know, he was kind of operated sort of as a king, you know, and this was his fiefdom. And we had a business manager and John. And I think that when you're on top of your game, you know, I think that can work well, but
We are trying to get John to be a speaker at ADG sometime soon.
oh,
Is
excellent.
there any reason we should not pursue that?
I have absolutely no reason to think that we should not pursue that. No. So I think ultimately there were some people that had some kind of hard feelings when he left. And I think some of those were just maybe misunderstandings. You know, I think initially, well, there's probably some things that I can't really talk about and can't really share. But the bottom line is that I think that people felt that transition could have been handled better, and that's natural. I think that's understandable. I mean, you know, Shaquille O'Neal won 3 championships with the Lakers, you know, but do we still wish he was playing for the Lakers? You know, some general manager had to, you know, be the bad guy and make the decision that maybe, you know, change was necessary. And sometimes there's people on both camps that agree with it and don't agree with it. And that's okay, you know, that's human nature. But, you know, there are issues to the extent that when our new senior minister, 5 years into his tenure, and somebody's, you know, dropping a balloon with John Calhoun on it, that maybe that some feelings are hurt about that, and that you know, there's just some things that could be handled better there. But and we also have to be careful not to have rose tinted glasses. You know, there's good and bad, and I think we need to focus, you know, on the positive. But I think we can react if we're not aware of the issues that we have. You know, we put a lot of boards in place, we put a lot of committees in place that weren't there. But maybe we've overboarded, you know, because my experience with boards is that I think you have about, you know, 3 to 4 people on a board, in some cases 1 to 2. And these boards are maybe 7 to 9 people, you know, 11 or 12 in the case of ops board. And, you know, a lot of those people, I think it's wasted, you know, I think it's wasted volunteer time, you know, for people to sit in a lot of meetings and maybe not being contributing, where maybe we could be, you know, doing projects out in the community, and that maybe our resources could be maybe reallocated in more productive ways. So maybe we overcorrected from not having any lay leadership. Now we have great lay leadership and a lot of people that are committed and kind of getting to know each other. I think there's a lot of value that comes out of that, but that maybe, you know, we overcorrected. So these are just things that we should be aware of. And then as far as Mark is concerned, you know, he was another great minister and he served us well for 8 years. Mark was more of an administrator. You know, he didn't maybe have the touchy-feely, you know, warmth and personality side that John Calhoun had. And, you know, people miss that. And I think that people kind of want and crave that. And those are some of the issues. But on the other hand, you know, we don't want to overcorrect in the other direction either, because we're really not going very straight down the road. So I think that, you know, going forward, I think it's really helpful to just be aware of these things that are affecting us. And then as far as the open and affirming, you know, that was a process that our church went through. And, you know, I think that was a challenging process for many people. I think there was some disappointment at the end of that, maybe felt that we compromised. I think there were some people that were strongly opposed to it. There were a lot of people who were strongly in favor of it. And there were some, you know, people that were kind of disenfranchised by that. You know, from an outsider's perspective, I wasn't very actively involved in that process, but from an outsider's perspective, when you look at our website and you see our welcome statement, it's great. You know, we're open, we're a welcoming church, we're accepting, and I think that process took us a long way. I think there was a lot of good that came out of that process. I think people grew, kind of dealing with those tough issues and those tough questions. And but ultimately, from an outsider's perspective, you know, we have this really long welcome statement, and I think maybe it would be better if we just said we're open and affirming, or we're welcome. We are welcome here at MBCC, period. And then we affirmed it. So we got to focus on our positives. We got to focus on our strengths, and we got to keep growing together. So reopening, that was one of our goals. Unfortunately, with the vaccinations, we were able to reopen. We started with our April service in the back parking lot. We moved those services up to the front sanctuary, just because it's a much prettier part of our campus. We've got a lot of beautiful trees. It's right in front of our sanctuary. And I think initially the concern was that, you know, we couldn't space out well enough, that there was more room in the back parking lot. But in the end, you know, there's no question it was the right decision. And it really felt like we were back once we got back up in that upper parking lot. Wouldn't you guys agree? Wasn't that a nice? I mean, it was kind of beautiful. It was inspiring. I thought, God, we need to have like a concert out here or something like that, you know, because it's just such a really nice spot. It's almost like an amphitheater, and you know, with the sanctuary in the background. So we had some really nice services. We had the you know, we did the confirmation Sunday. That was a huge success. We had the choir was able to start singing because they were outdoors. And that was really great. We moved the risers out in front of the sanctuary. On June 13th, we returned inside the sanctuary. And Rita Wong, who is here with us today, was one of our lay Sunday speakers. We had John Huguenin, who couldn't make it, wishes he could have been here. But I told him we're recording so he can get a copy of the presentation. Oh, there he is. Hey, John.
Hi, everybody.
How did I miss that? Hey, John, how are you?
Okay.
And then on July 10th, we had Sylvia's multi-city ordination. She had been kind of delaying her ordination because of COVID, you might recall. And when I say multi-city, I think we had like at least 4 cities that were simultaneously at her ordination. We had a minister from Chicago. We had a minister from around the DC area. We had, who were both speakers. We had her church in suburban Chicago. And then here in Manhattan Beach, and all of this was taking place. I mean, it was kind of amazing that Jacob and I think maybe Rick and Nick were a part of that. Or not Rick, but Kevin Hefner. I think these guys were all part of that. But it's great that we can do that kind of stuff. I mean, you know, what else can we do? It's something we really need to use our imagination on, because that's a capability that we now have, and we could have a service with, you know, somebody halfway around the world. So the staff is back in the office. The lay leadership are meeting, some in person, some kind of a hybrid model. I know both the executive and ops board meetings, we do hybrid. We're in person and on Zoom, kind of like we're doing here at ADG. ADG is doing a hybrid model. So we kind of have the best of both worlds. And I think that's excellent. Our worship services are still either online or in person. Our MVCC groups, Bible study, ADG, art therapy classes, our social groups. We have outside groups that are starting to meet on campus again. So it's just been really great. It's been, challenging. Obviously, we've had to rehire janitorial services, keeping things clean, keeping things sanitized. So there's been a lot going on, but we're in a great place. Thank God. So MVCC Life, boards, committees, and social groups, activity is picking up again after a relatively restricted year. It's not that people couldn't or wouldn't do stuff. It's just that it was tough, to transition their groups into an online format. It just didn't really work. And so Christian education and youth, we're doing kids church and confirmation class was a big one. Beach cleanup and a variety of other activities that they've been doing. I want to thank our chairs, Heather Freeland for CE and Rachel Humphrey for youth. Our communications board has been, a steady flow of Facebook activity. That's become a staple and something that everybody is participating. All ages of our church. Young, old, technical, not technical, everybody's using that format, so that's great. And I mentioned that we have a new website. I'm going to share a couple of screenshots and give a sneak peek of that. The Cultural Arts Board, they haven't been quite as busy, but they do have a worship performer that's going to be with us today. So that's great. They contributed towards the homecoming Sunday fun day, that DJ that we had. They sprung for that, which was very generous. Diaconate board, they've been really busy. Diaconate board needs help. If anybody wants to volunteer and be an usher, reach out to Wayne Torrey. They definitely need support because they've been really busy. And keeping us safe, reopening safely. The extension board has been running their blood cross drives. Their mission has been challenged a little bit because we are trying to invite groups on the campus for speaker presentations and things like that. And we had a speaker that just we didn't want to risk having them hired, a non-cancelable fee. And then maybe they would have to cancel and we would lose our money. So we just decided to kind of pass on that. The ops board, the business board of the church has been extremely busy. Our personnel committee, Pat Martin, John Huguenin, Sherry have been evaluating our staff. They did staff evaluations earlier in the year. BJ's been kind of tracking hours because we're transitioning, right? We're back into, it was kind of like during COVID, it's like, let's just do the best we can. Let's get through this, let's meet the needs of our congregants. But now that we're kind of starting to reassimilate to a level of norm, how are people using their resources, and are we, getting the most out of that? And that's something that's being evaluated. The facilities, Dale heads up our facilities committee. He's got the Wednesday work crew. They just are at it week in, week out. They send a list of all the things that they accomplished that week, who brought them coffee and donuts, what guests they had join, and then John Fitzgerald and Jacob have been kind of staying on top of some of the HVAC replacements and some other things that have been getting done. But thanks to all those guys, the paint work that's been done. I've got a separate section on facilities. The finance The Mance, obviously, we talked about that. Stewardship has the second year of the pledge campaign coming up. So for people that maybe did a 1-year pledge instead of 2, they'll probably be reaching out to you guys and making sure that our financials are in good shape for next year. There's a prayer and meditation garden that Stewardship is doing a campaign raise for. That's going to be kind of up by the bell. In that area, there's going to be a prayer and meditation garden that we're going to be building, and there's going to be a capital contribution for that. There was a capital contribution. There was a charitable contribution for Finding Hope of America that raised, Finding Hope Africa, excuse me, that raised $25,000. And then we're being good neighbors with Montessori. Obviously, I mentioned that we helped them out when they were going through hard times. We're helping the Penny Camp school and faculty that they've lost all their parking during construction. They have nowhere to park. So as good neighbors, we have decided to let them use the back parking, the lower back parking lot here. And we're working on getting some signs put up so that we have MVCC, prominently displayed along that street. And then CTJ, they're kind of our temple that we're so close with, and that we do interfaith work with. They have some kids programs that we're allowing them to use a couple of the classrooms over there in the CE building. Social action and mission work. They gave a donation for the summer program for the All Peoples community. So art supplies that they just didn't have the money for that summer program. And so that was some outreach that we did there. Reading partners. Yeah, Phil.
Just comment on.
Sure.
TTD, parking down. We used to park down the road. Is that exclusively them now?
No, it's not exclusively them. It's just that we don't want them parking up here.
Yeah.
So we're having them park down there. Yeah. The reading partners, we're starting to do some recruitment for that again. That's really important ministry, and that they've kind of divided into 4 giving categories: domestic, international, social justice, and charity work. And then we continue to do work with Family Promise. ADG, obviously, here we are back in action, and you have been, and I think that the pandemic threw us a curveball last year, but I think you guys have rebounded nicely. So great job to Jim. Thank you for hosting me today. And continuing this program. Choir, we talked about choir. They're back. They're performing again, which is wonderful. I know that's a really important part of our church to a lot of people. The counseling center, they remain busy. They have 7 counselors. They have not slowed down, and they continue to crank out. They're not back on campus yet for the safety of the counselors, but hoping to resume later this year. They did 97 sessions in June. When you look at that over the course of a year, that's like over 1,000 counseling sessions. I mean, think about all the good work, all the problems that are being saved, all the lives that are being impacted by that program of ours. So that's just wonderful. Theater, they've been quiet, but they're roaring back. So the theater program has 3 programs that are coming up, and the details are on the outside of the community hall. There's a little brochure that has information on each of these, but they're going to do a haunted house for Halloween. But I think it's going to be paired up with a movie night. So that should be a fun activity for all the kids and youth, and some of the adults as well. They're doing a family Christmas program on the 18th of December. And I've already heard rehearsing going on when we were at our ops board. So they're active on that already. So clearly excited to get back. And then I think Little Me is the spring play Don't have the exact dates for that yet, but they're going to be doing that in the spring. And then social groups, Mariners. Mariners is having fun again. They couldn't wait to get back. They were probably the first one. They were chomping at the bit to get back. And they did a camp out this summer. They did a car show. They had their trunk. What do they call the trunk? Yeah, they had a trunk event. They did a movie night. Shipmates they're meeting during the day. They've moved their meetings to the day, and they're starting to integrate with some of the other groups, participate in some of the other group activities, and kind of starting to get active again. So that's a great thing to see. And then meeting this afternoon. Women's Fellowship, they've been really active. There was a Autumn Moon Festival that took place recently that had, I guess, maybe about 40 to 50 people showed up for that. Arita was a part of that. And they do their book club and celestial circles. And I don't know about the tea, if that got pushed out or exactly what they're going to do. But the Soul Sisters and the Young Dads, those of us with, kids that are still of, some K through 12 age group. They did a paint and pour where they did artwork. There's Nancy and my wife with some of their artwork while they were doing some wine tasting. They did an online tasting event. So people are having fun again, and people are reconnecting, and people are getting together again. So, that's something that we've missed, and it is really starting to take place again. So I think those are all signs that we're coming out of this pandemic in a very healthy manner. People are still connected. So signs, grounds, and facilities. So we've got the welcome signage in both the front and the back parking lots of the church. And that was something that kind of coincided with that reopening. Once we had people coming back, once we wanted them to feel welcome. We need people to come back. You get out of the habit of going to church on Sunday and you start doing other stuff, you might not change that habit again. So if you have friends that haven't been back in a while, tell them to come back. If they haven't been back in a long time, say give it a try. Come again. I think that we have some good things and some good momentum. I talked about the Wednesday work crew. They save us a ton of money every year on landscaping and handyman work, lawn care, leaves trimming, tree maintenance. They took that over. We had a permanent landscaper that was contracted, and when we started cutting costs, when Montessori closed its doors and we didn't know they were coming back, we started looking at every avenue to cut costs. And the Wednesday work crew stepped up and started kind of doing some of that work. And gosh, they actually enjoy it. and that's a wonderful thing. So that's been huge. That's something that they agreed to continue to do. So everybody let's just give them a big applause. Just wonderful. We've also been painting. That was something that started last year and has continued this year. All the blue trim around the church. Those are some color schemes that were picked out last year and have continued to get executed this year. The campus is just looking really great and looking very welcoming. And I think that we're really grateful for that. Other repairs, parking lot, etc. I mentioned we had replaced some of our HVAC units, and we're also putting away more money for a rainy day fund for our facilities. We have a lot of facilities here. We have very expensive things like roofs, air conditioning units, that when they go bad, you have to write a big check. So we need to be prepared for that stuff. So we took $30,000 of the added, financial windfall, and we put that into a long-term fund. And I think we've also doubled our kind of like the monthly amount that we kind of put away for these types of projects. So that was good stuff. Financial statements, a high-level summary. So what we have here is high-level breakdown of our income, pledges and other contributions, rent from Montessori school, and other. In this case, primarily interest on our bank balances as well as the PPP loan. So our year-to-date is looking good so far. We're ahead of budget at $891,000 in income as compared to a budgeted amount of $847,000. So we're favorable by $43,000. The expenses, these are the major expenses that we have here at MBCC, broken down by salaries and benefits. That's by far the biggest one. Administrative expenses, bulletins, office expense, copier, things like that. We have interest and depreciation, payment of mortgage payments, interest payments on the mortgage that we have here on the property and in our manse, taxes and insurance, utilities, grounds and maintenance, mission work. This is something that I'd really like to see this increase as a percentage of our budget. There are some churches that just 10%, and 10% of their annual budget is the first 10% that's going to go to mission, and it's going to go to charity. And I don't think we're in a financial position where we can just do that. But I think if we set a goal and say that we're going to get there over time, then I think we can do it. So if we set a 10-year goal, 10% in 10 years, that would mean maybe less than 1% per year is the difference that we would have to make up for. And I think that with the generosity of the people in our church, if they realized that we were kind of working towards that goal, and they knew that more and more of their money was going to mission and charity work, I think we could get there. Yeah, Frank.
A couple of years ago, I thought we signed up for, committed to be a 5-5 church.
A 5 and 5 church.
Abandon that, or do you longer term?
You know what? I do not know.
I don't believe we instituted on that.
Okay.
For the year 2020.
Okay.
There's things like the Sarah retirement program.
Okay.
There are like 5 wide things that sort of in this category, because obviously the contributions are going.
Yeah. Do you remember what year that was, or how long ago that was?
Moderator, and honestly, I think we started because you take the special offering.
Okay. Yep.
And I think the pandemic.
Okay.
That.
Yep.
But
okay.
How you move?
Yep. Okay. Yeah, we've got to wrap up. We're getting close here, so I'm going to go ahead and continue. So and then bottom line, our net income is up even after the PPP loan, and you net that out. We're still up by 59,000. Yes. No, we have been forgiven the payback on the loan, so that is no longer a liability sitting on our balance sheet. So that was forgiven this year. So that's great news. And then our bank balance is a little over 500,000, and our mortgage is right at about $1 million. So website. This is really exciting. October 4th is when we're going to be launching this new website. Huge thanks to Amy McIntyre, our communications board chair. I know she spent hours and hours and hours on this project. This was something that kind of started when Nancy was still moderator, and at least the approval was given to, let's do it. Let's upgrade our website. And
who's responsible for the picture on our Insta church website. It is absolutely fantastic. Somebody gets an girl or attaboy. The group picture out front.
Yeah. So that's going to be on our website. Only we're going to even take it a step further. We've got some drone footage that we took, and that's going to be put into a rolling loop, with some other things going on to kind of give people, when they hit that website, a feeling of what it is like to be here. And
Fantastic.
I don't think a single photo can do that, but I mean, as far as a single photo goes, that photo is pretty outstanding. I totally agree. What's that? So that was taken by Steve Cooper, former Mariner skipper and photographer. So anyways, I'm not going to really spend much time because we do need to wrap, but it's a beautiful website. It's really coming together. There's just some great content, some great photos. We've been just kind of working on tweaking and revisions over the last part of this summer. But I think there's something for everybody, and it really represents our church and who we are. So I think it's going to be, a big improvement over the current website that we have. So really excited about that. And then lastly, Homecoming Sunday Fun Day. Raise your hand if you were able to be a part of that event. So I talked about focusing on the positives, right? And I talked about our strengths. And this is an example of the best of MBCC, is that our kids have this book. It's called Stone Soup, and basically what it is, it's about these three wise men, and it's been translated in different languages and different cultures. But really, what it comes down to is these guys. They come into a village, and the people aren't talking to each other. Everybody's kind of caught up in their own business, and they just start making stone soup, which is basically just hot water and stones. And the curiosity just kind of boils over, and you have all these people saying, oh, well, maybe I can add some salt and pepper. Oh, I have some carrots that would make that soup really tasty. Or, oh, I have some beans that would really add to that soup, and some onions. And before you know it, the whole village is out there, and it just becomes a big festival. And what makes that so special is that everybody was a part of it. It wasn't just this group or that group or the young people or the old people. We were all a part of it. And that's kind of what the idea behind this Sunday Fun Day was, that it used to be, the extension board put on that party because they were the party board. And what we did was we put out a sign up genius, and we had people from Mariners, people from Shipmates, people flipping burgers, people, buying food, people bringing cups, people bringing ice cream, beer, wine, a DJ. Everybody contributed, and kind of felt like more like a wedding. It was a big celebration because everybody was a part of it. So, and that ends my presentation. So thank you very much for your time. Yes, Bruce.
I, for one, Lance, appreciate all your hard work and everything you've done for us. But I do have one question.
Sure.
You mentioned this lasso program. So you do have time to watch TV?
That's our Friday night. That's our Friday night show. I haven't been able to follow a series for quite some time, but yeah, I did fit that one in.
So Lance, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
There's still about six months to do all those good things that you. Good. So thank you. And we're going to close down now. So.